Welcome to Tech Notice. This is the part 3 of the Pilotfly Focus1 review. Now, well done for being patient. If you're watching this and this is your first one of the part 3 series, then I recommend you check out the part 1 where we talked about what do you get in the box, and part 2 where we talk about how to set it up and how to use it and how to calibrate all the things. So this is part 2. Now part 3, which is about like my opinion, and we're talking about the good sides and bad sides and how I've been using it now for a few days and trying to set it up. I've had a few problems and I've had a few good sides that I like about this, so I'm sharing this now with you. So this is like the user review. Let's get into it now. Okay, as you can see, it's all rigged up over here. I've got the focus system over here. I've got the wheel over here, the motor over there, and I've also got this handle over here with also the monitor attached in the back over here. Now, I've been using the Sigma 35mm 1.4 lens on a full frame camera. I've got my Sony a7S II over there, and I wanted to use it with a very shallow depth of field lens, so I've been using it only on 1.4 aperture, because then I can utilize and I can use the footage the best. Or what I mean is I can put it through the worst case scenario, because the focus needs to be pulled a lot and it has to be played a lot with. Now, for that reason, because it is 1.4, I needed a bigger monitor, because just seeing the focus on a small LCD camera back monitor is just not enough. If you're using a bigger, a more closed up aperture, maybe f4 or even lower, then you're probably not needing an external monitor. But if you're going below f2.8, I'd say you definitely need a monitor to see it more visually and just make sure that you've nailed the focus. So now let's start with the good sides first. What do I like about this system? And then we'll go on the bad sides. So what I like about this is that it's a really cool design and it looks very slick and quality design. If you look at the wheel over here, then you have this wood on the wheel and it looks solid. It's metal built, and the motor is a bit more plasticky, but it still remains like a very cool design. The rod is carbon fiber, so it gives it a really premium look. And if you're using it, you get a lot of head turns. People looking, ooh, what's he using? He's proper professional. I was shooting some stuff in the park and everyone was like, whoa, what's he got over there? So it looks pretty professional. Another thing is that it's very simple to use and simple to set up. If you've seen my second video, it should be very easy. As well as adjusting it and calibrating it is very easy as well. Another very good thing about this is the price. If you're looking at the price is very reasonable for what you're getting with it. If you're looking at some of the higher, more end like Tilta ones, and Tilta's wireless and even wired systems are much more expensive than this, and I think this does as good of a job as some of the like bigger brands. So definitely bang for buck for the price is very good. Because the follow focus is wireless, what that means that you can actually take this remote out and you can have it on the side and you can still adjust the focus. For example, if I'm using this lens somewhere on a tripod far away, I can look into the monitor, which is over there. Obviously this is not connected to that at the moment, and I can adjust the focus to pull the focus for myself, which is really cool, because not all follow focus systems are wireless. This is really cool. Now, if you're worried about the noise, what the motor makes, then this is good news for you, because it is completely silent. It hardly makes any noise. I think even if I'm using my own hands on the wheel, I'm making more noise with my own hands, whereas this is completely silent, so you're not gonna scare your bugs away if you're using this to film the bugs. Super easy to sync as well. That kind of goes to that usability area. You know, I've never had any problem syncing up with the wheel and the motor. Spot on. Another cool thing is that on the actual wheel you have these buttons over here which can be controlled on the camera. So if you have connected your motor to the camera, you can take a photo and start recording on the camera over here. So in theory, this is really cool thing. It's very small and compact design, which I dig as well. I think it's very cool that you can take it anywhere. It's very like travelable, if I can say that. So taking it with you in this cute little small box is very easy. I think one of the very good selling points for you it might be, is that the motor is a very wide range of power options possible. So it can take in 7 to 16 volts. So it means that if you have like a V-mount battery or cold mount battery, you can easily use it as a D-tap and then just plug it in there, and it's going to power the motor as well if you're just rigging it up, for example. Or if you've got a 12 volt, you know, power DC port or any other supply, pretty much works with it. Just the USB power banks don't work unless you find something that can do 7 volts, because usually they are 5 volts, so you need something a bit bigger. But there's a wide range of power options possible, which is really good as well. And lastly, I think it's a pretty cute traveling case. I don't know if it's a good thing, but it's small and you can put it in your backpack, or it doesn't take much space, for example, and keeps your gear very, very safe. Now let's move into the not so good sides and the things that I found with it when using it, that I think I owe you the explanation and I owe you the bad sides as well. So I can't just talk about the good sides. I think you watching this thinking, oh, am I gonna buy it? Should I buy it? Is it worth it? I think you need to know the both sides, and so you can consider it fully. Number one thing that I've found about this is that it takes practice. Now, I'm not the best focus puller in the world, and if you look at the movie sets, there are a special person assigned. That's like a proper profession. They only focus on pulling the focus in the movies. Now, I thought, oh, it's quite simple, I'm gonna do it. And I was finding myself really struggling with the focus thing. And I don't think that I'm by far a very good or perfect, you know, focus puller even now at the moment. So it takes practice. It's not just like pulling the focus. It's always knowing like which way it goes, and it takes some practice. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, with the monitor setup and the follow focus, the setup is really, really heavy. Now, I got tired after like 5 or 10 minutes of the use because, well, there's a lot of weight to carry. Now, if you're using both hands, it's not that bad, but you have to use one of your hands as the focus puller. Well, because you need to pull focus. And that gets really, really tiring. Now I've attached the monitor and the handle as well, which I think is essential when shooting on 1.4, and it's just almost, I would say, too heavy to use over a very long time. Traveling with this is absolutely not ideal anymore at all. It is really, really heavy. Now, because it is heavy, I've found that because how I've set it up, the gimbal can easily tilt over when you set it down. Now, I've made sure that one of the tripod legs on the bottom, if you look over here, is actually like pointing directly to the back of the gimbal, because, let me just move it a little bit. So now when there isn't a proper leg on the back of the gimbal, it can easily fall over like that. Then now let's talk about using it with the Adventurer gimbal, which this system is supposed to be built and designed for. Now, there are a few issues with it. For example, the cables are in the way. Now, the cables that I'm using, they might not be perfect cables, but I find that they are in the way. So for example, if I'm tilting it down, in the back here, the HDMI cable is hitting that roll axis arm over here, which means that I can't tilt it further down. It just doesn't go any more down because the cable is in the way. Another thing is that this actual rod is in the way of doing low down shots, which to me is absolutely ridiculous. So for example, I'm just gonna pull this HDMI cable out so you can see this. So the monitor is not working at the moment, but if I'm tilting it down, that back motor, as you can see, is hitting the motor and it can't go down. So I can't go further down than this, and that's it. There's no way to do a low on the ground shot, which means that this handle becomes completely useless and restricts half of the usage of that gimbal. Now, I'm not sure why is this. On the website, if you're looking where this rod is mounted, that rod is mounted somehow on the bottom of the plate over here. There's a little screw hole over there. On the actual website, the rod is down there, which means that then the camera can probably go down, or I'm not sure either, because maybe the motor is then hitting on the bottom over there. So I think that's like not completely thought through, which is really, really odd for me. To have this extra focus pulling feature takes away some of the usage of the gimbal, which to me doesn't make sense, and I think there's some like design faults over there, and it really needs to be thought through again. Now, when I'm using this handle and that monitor for extra weight, what I found is that the gimbal starts to actually bend. The handle starts to bend on this, because if you take the battery like cover over here off, which is like this leather back bit over here, then there's like a massive hole, and the hole, it's not like a full handle that goes all the way through. Half of it is just empty. So the gimbal starts to bend of this weight, which I'm not sure if that's ideal. And at first I was like, oh, something's like pinching my hand over there. And then I realized that just the whole design is bending a little bit, and my skin is getting trapped between the end of the control panel over here and the leather gimbal over here, as you can see on this macro shot over here, which is not ideal and maybe needs to be proved. As just a tip for Pilotfly. It's not a big problem when you're using it, but what is a big problem for me, at least what it was because the weight is so heavy, and I'm really putting a lot of weight is going on this hand. And I've found myself pressing accidentally those zoom buttons over here. So if you have connected your camera to the gimbal, then these zoom buttons over here, if you're using Sony camera, for example, act as clear image zoom. And then I'm accidentally zooming in and zooming out, because all this weight is just resting on my hand, and these buttons are not in the ideal place. So then another thing is that, so let's say you're left or right-handed and you want to mount this focus pulling wheel on the right side of the gimbal, because there is a 1/4 inch screw all over here, which in theory it can go on both sides. Then you realize that you're actually blocking the turn on and off button of the gimbal on the right side. In conclusion, you can only have the wheel on the left side of the gimbal. So if you want to pull the focus with your right hand, it's really, really not possible. Now, talking about this little focus pulling wheel over here, these camera buttons or camera control buttons over here actually aren't working. At least they're not working with my Sony camera. At first, I thought this was a cable fault. I talked with the Pilotfly, they thought it was a cable fault as well. They sent me another replacement cable, and it's still not working. So now at the moment, when I should be pressing this record button, because the motor, the HDMI out is going straight into the camera via micro USB, HDMI to micro USB, then this record button over here should start recording on the camera, but it is doing absolutely nothing. Now the camera release button, or the shutter release button, or the photo button over here, that is actually showing up on the camera, and I can take pictures like that, whereas the movie recording button is not working. On the bottom of this wheel, there is a little zoom button. So for example, the same zoom buttons that were on the gimbal are over here. This button down there is not working on the Sony either. What I'm saying not working is that it can't be assigned as clear image zoom. It can only be used for these lenses that have the power zoom inside. For example, the 18 to 135, I think. That's one of the, I'll probably say this wrong, but some of the lenses have this like power zoom in, or like a electric zoom built into the lens. Then you can use this. I haven't got this lens, so I haven't tried this, so I'm not sure if this is working, but it doesn't work as the clear image zoom. Whew, that's a lot of talking. This is basically my review of this, and as you can see on some of the footage, you know, don't judge me. I wasn't the best at shooting with this, and I'm not the best focus puller in the world, but I just wanted to try out what this can do, and I wanted to put myself in the hardest situations where a subject is moving and I am moving as well, which makes the focus pulling really, really hard, and it takes practice. Anyway guys, I hope this was helpful for you, the good sides and the bad sides. If you have any other questions, or you feel like I didn't cover any topic specifically what you were after, then comment below. I'll be happy to answer those questions that you might have, and I'll meet you in the comment section below. If you did find this video helpful, or if you think someone else will find it helpful, please leave a like on the video and feel free to share it with someone who might be thinking about getting this system. Also, if you want to watch the review of this gimbal, then click up there. This is really awesome gimbal, then check it out over there. If you're watching this for the first time and we're just meeting, welcome. My name is Lauri, nice to meet you. If I could, I would shake your hand and ask you how you're doing. Hopefully you're doing well. Consider subscribing because more content like this is coming out every single week. Now, with that said, thanks very much guys for watching. How many times have I said that already? I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.